Hey guys, welcome back to our RLS scenario.
Look, I jumped the gun. Sorry.
You did.
I was
It's
pumped.
okay.
I was
Welcome
pumped.
back. Shout out to all our real lovers and all the new real lovers who have joined us today. We're back with another episode.
Yes. Oh, that was my gunshot.
How was
it?
that was
Strong. It was a ain't that what the people do on the podcast? They got all the sound effects. Pop, pop, pop. That's us being back. Welcome.
welcome. We are back. How are you doing today, Rhonda?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Walking on sunshine.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Listen, we need to. Y'all notice we like music. We do.
We do.
We'll sing something real quick.
For
sure.
we should have like a little karaoke whenever we, good karaoke spots out here.
Out here, like in Baltimore. No. I'm sure they exist, but all the good karaoke spots I know of are not in Baltimore.
Got you.
Like the really fun ones.
I went to some good ones in New York.
Ooh, that sounds like it would be fun. But they do karaoke a lot of places in Baltimore, like normal lounges and stuff. They might have like a karaoke night.
But not like a karaoke
Not
place.
like a karaoke spot.
Got you.
Yes. I've gone to iRock, which is totally not in Baltimore. The new one at the Wharf, K something. That was cool. I loved like the private room.
Yeah, the private room. You looking through the book.
Yes,
seeing what you got. Yeah.
I love it. So nothing in Baltimore though. Maybe let me know if you know of a cool karaoke spot here. DM me. Let me know. For
sure. You know, me and Ron always got to do our little music sidetracks.
We do. Just roll with us.
Just roll with it.
Y'all love it here.
So I just want to read a review for the Gia Peppers episode. Did we talk about that? I think we talked about it when we was on here.
I think a little bit.
Like,
shout out to Gia.
Gia, we appreciate her coming through. It was a real fun conversation.
Yes.
But somebody said this episode is so encouraging for me. Not someone. Shauna W9750.
Hey, Shauna.
Hey, this episode is so encouraging for me as far as finding a true relationship with the love that I desire from a partner and vice versa. I believe he will come in due time with the prayer hands. Yes, he will.
Yes, he will. I'm so glad you found inspiration in that. G is a ball of fun. And she really talked about some really good stuff from coming from a really loving family and seeing marriage growing up. And not being able to have that for herself yet, but still remaining really hopeful for it and prayer about it. I love the spiritual piece of it. So it was great.
Yeah,
if you haven't watched it, you should go check it out right now. It's available.
For sure.
Yes.
And we are planning to have I think we figured out that maybe 2 guests per month is like a good thing.
Yes.
And I'm excited because the guests that we're going to have, I don't even know if you're expecting some of it, because it's just, we wanted to get such a well-rounded perspective on love. So everybody that we're bringing on have so many different perspectives and so many different walks of life, or from so many different walks of life.
Yes.
That it'll just be interesting conversation to hear different people's perspective. So I'm excited about it.
And it's crazy because some people will be such naysayers. I've learned that, and I'm sure you do too. People trying to tell you how to do what you do.
Yeah.
Or saying oh, that doesn't make sense. But one thing that we know is consistent is that all of us have a story about love. It may not be love that you had and you enjoyed it. It might be love that you wish you had and you don't have it.
Yeah.
It might be love from parents that were adoptive or that you were raised by your grandparents. We all have the ability to talk about it.
For sure.
And so I love that all of our guests aren't going to be the most obvious people to people, but I think it'll be so cool to hear their perspectives on dating, relationships, familial and otherwise. So
for sure.
Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned.
What's to come?
All right, you have our real life love scenario for today.
I do. And in the theme of last week's real life love scenario,
I want to do 2. I want you to do that one, but then I got another one that I just want to talk about, and then we can go into it.
Okay. All right, cool. So, light skin Keisha, she's a rapper and actress. There's a clip, and I don't know the full context of it, so I'll preference it with that. But her and her boyfriend or fiance, I think they're engaged, were talking, and he said that if he cheated on her, she would not leave. And she was like, you stupid. Like literally those were her words. Like, you stupid if you think I wouldn't leave you. And he's like, no, you wouldn't. Absolutely not. You wouldn't leave. You wouldn't leave. And she's like, dog, I would totally leave you. Like, I would 1000% break up with you. I wouldn't leave with a bunch of energy. I'm not going to cuss you out. I'm going to leave in the middle of the night. And he just kept saying, no, you would not. If I cheated, you wouldn't leave. And then he brought up money and he was like, I've spent too much money. And she's like, oh, that's a personal problem. I don't care about that. And he's like, we've been together for too long. She's like, I'm telling you right now, if you cheated on me, I would leave you. And then she even asked him, do you want to cheat on me? And he like, no, I don't want to cheat on you. But I'm saying, if I did, you ain't going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it just was so interesting to watch this exchange. And all I could feel was secondhand embarrassment for her.
Yeah.
With her man sitting up here saying this. So I would love to know your thoughts on the whole thing.
Shoot. I mean, to me, that you didn't cheat in that moment, but that lets me know that you feel like it's okay to do. And like, if that's your mentality already right now, then I feel like I would just be like, yo, I'm done. Like, we good. Mm-hmm. Like, this, I don't even want to get to the point to where I have to make this decision of whether I would stay or whether I would leave. If this is already your mentality, that you think you can do whatever you want, however you want, and you think I'm still going to be here, like, you really said that out your mouth in a public forum.
Correct.
That shows me how confident you are.
Yeah. Like, very confident.
So what's my leash? What's my, like, how long of a leash do I have before you take that into effect, knowing there aren't any repercussions in your mind? Yes.
It makes me like think about that healthy amount of fear you're supposed to have within a relationship, because I believe that. I learned that growing up. I learned that first in my household with my mother. Like, there was a certain amount of fear that I had of her authority around, if I did things that she said not to do, that there would be consequences to that. There would be punishments. If that was, I couldn't go outside that day, or I was going to have the video game taken from me, or I lost my phone privileges. Sometimes I didn't do bad things because I feared those consequences. And then I learned it spiritually. You learn that in the Bible, that God is a God that loves you and all of these things, but he expects reverence. And there is a certain amount of fear that you have around his authority, because anything he's saying you should do is out of love. And it's because bad things happen, as in consequences, not like truly bad things. Consequences happen when you make bad decisions or you go against my will. So I feel like in romantic relationships, you should have a certain amount of fear around the consequences of your bad decisions. And he doesn't seem to have said fear. He is 1000%. The confidence that he had in saying that is like, girl, you ain't going nowhere. Like, you not leaving me.
It's also one thing to think it, and it's another thing to say it, because saying it could then sway the opinion or the process that somebody may think once you actually say it. Like, even you may think that, like, let's say, even when it comes to my wife, do I think if I cheated, she would stay? I think it could be a possibility that it would be a hard thought for her. Like, is this really who he is? Like, but I would never, like, even if I think, if you had to put a gun in my head and give me an answer and ask me, what do I think? Do I think she would leave me, or do I think she would stay? It's like, I would never publicly be like,
shit.
Hey, wife, if I cheated on you, I know dang well you ain't leaving me.
Yeah. Crazy.
Everything I'm doing for you, like, come on.
Right. All this money I done spent. All this time we've been together. It's just like, you are very arrogant.
It remind me of Trump, honestly. Like, how he, when you whatever, you could do whatever.
You could just grab him up.
You could grab him how you want to grab him. Or when he was like, I could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I ain't gonna lose no voters. It's like the confidence that you have to just say that out loud lets me know that you would do those things if you're not already doing them now.
Things, yes.
Because you don't feel like there are any consequences to those actions. So it's like,
and we've made like cheating so commonplace, and I know it happens a lot. I get it, but I think like saying it in a way to diminish how painful it is, or how like hard it is to deal with that when somebody does that. Like, we just diminish it. Like I feel like he was diminishing it. Like, yo, I done spent a bunch of money. We've been together. If I cheat, you ain't going nowhere. As if like cheating is like just a light thing to do. Like it's no big deal. I feel embarrassed for her because like you said, you can think it. You shouldn't say it. And now she's sitting there like over explaining, like, try me if you want to. Like she literally says, okay, try it. I'd like to see you do it. Now we have this energy where I'm probably going to take this off these microphones when we get out of here and be like, have you lost your mind? Like, why would you say that? Am I giving you some sort of impression? Because I'll play devil's advocate. Maybe she's giving off a vibe of like, she ain't never going nowhere no matter what he does. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why he feels so puffed up to say something like that. But like you said, even if I believed it, I would never say it in a means of like arrogance. I would say it humbly. Like I'm so thankful if for some reason we might have reached this impasse that I have a person that could potentially work through this with me or see me for more than my transgression, but not popping your chest like, girl, she ain't going nowhere. She ain't, that's just, I felt embarrassed for her. She handled her own, don't get me wrong, but I was just sitting there like, every day on Beyonce internet, y'all get on here and just embarrass your girlfriend. Stop, please.
It's always how you communicate things. I was talking to a friend about that yesterday. The way that you say something, even if it's the same thing, it just, the way you say it tells everything about your intention, your mentality. It's like you said, even if we were to say that about our partner, like it would just sound so different. Like come from a place that's like, I don't ever plan on cheating on my wife. Ever. But if I ever got caught up, I feel that I probably have built enough equity with her and in our relationship that she would give me some type of grace and know that that's not who I actually am.
And I would do the work to show her that that's not actually who I am.
That's one way of saying it versus like, like that. And that's a true feeling. Even now I can say that it's like, I don't plan on cheating on my wife, but if I ever did, or whatever in a situation where I did something stupid, I would pray to God that she would forgive me.
That's that part.
Like
I would pray that you wouldn't leave me because I really would not want to, or you could just shush the whole conversation away. If you cheated, if I cheated on you, would you leave? I ain't gonna cheat, so ain't no need for us to even entertaining this.
Exactly.
Done. That's the end of that. Exactly. You could have also done that, but instead you just bless these.
It's like I said, it's everything in public. The embarrassing your person. It's just a whole nother level of like, that's one of the things I always talked about is I don't want to put my wife in a position of where she looks stupid.
Yes.
Or people are looking at her like, you dumb. Like, why are you with this dude? Like, you look stupid. And I think that's a position that I don't want to put her in because I don't feel like it's a great representation for us, but I don't want her to have to deal with that. And we talked about that with Kiki and her man. Like that's the same situation. You put her in a position to be embarrassed to where people are looking at her like, why are you with him?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. And it's like, it just looks, you look bad as a unit. Like it's not, when you say stuff like that, it doesn't make you look better.
Doesn't.
As a unit, y'all just look bad.
Yep.
And I don't want to look. I don't want to look bad as a unit
like that. That's crazy.
Not at all. That's like crazy. I want to look as a unit. Like like they are goals, or they look like they got together. Or they look like they love each other. I ain't trying to be.
Yeah, and it's not to be fake or like not showcase when you have a real thing. No. Authenticity is important
for sure.
But I don't want to look stupid. Like you don't respect me enough to have a fear that there would be real consequences, which could include losing me if you did something like that.
Sure.
I don't want anybody to think I'm boo-boo the fool for you because I'm not. I love you, all of that. But I think he should have been super clear after that like, let me shut up. But now so many people, I've now seen it hit 3 blogs, thousands of comments, 10,000 comments each blog of people on there like, he cheating already, girl. You'd be crazy to stay with him. I would leave him just for embarrassing me. Thanks, boyfriend. Thanks, fiance, whatever. Thanks so much.
And now you have me thinking, like, even if I didn't have like these
so you cheating? You better clean that phone up after that little interview that y'all was on, because I promise she's gonna be in there.
And then
like
every action that you taking, where you at, what you doing? I called you, you ain't pick up. Like, you just making it harder for yourself, brother.
You done made a bed that I hope you prepared to lay in, because that was nuts.
I mean, according to him, he ready to lay in it because she ain't going nowhere anyways.
That part. That part.
So I guess in his mind, he like, whether I say it or not, You ain't going
You ain't going nowhere.
nowhere. So it's cool. I can say it, not say it.
I said what
My
I
relationship
said.
gonna be fine.
Crazy tale. So you said you had another one.
I think I'm gonna wait to do that one. I'm
You gonna
gonna
wait
wait
to do
to
that?
do,
Okay,
yeah,
cool. All right. We'll get into that one next episode. All right, let's jump into our real love scenario because it's a bit of a lengthy one. This is from across the pond.
Across the pond.
I believe our write-in is from Britain, and I was
Okay.
gonna try to do this whole thing in that accent, but I can't. All right, so we hear from Sheldon. He says, "My now ex and I are in a breakup. I wear my heart on my sleeve way more, it seems. Things shifted downhill from January after a heated marriage debate, specifically with respect to the favorite time frame. Although it has never been a secret that she is more pushing towards marriage, I agreed that I wanted it too, understanding that we needed to build a solid foundation first, for myself and ultimately for us. I'm 28 and she is 24, both living with our parents. Her timeline is 5 years after clearly discussing it with outsiders and family. My stance is you can't build on sand, and a marriage with no home is crazy to me." She became increasingly distant, and rather than speak up on issues, she clamshelled. We had many failed heart-to-hearts in an attempt to fix things, which felt one-sided. I've had countless tries to stabilize, but I became more critical of her behaviors and attitudes to things like handling of money. I labeled her high-chested, superficial, and a runner regarding helping to clear the gray clouds in our relationship. The more I said, the further she ran. She suggested the break, to which I initially refuted. She claimed that I really didn't know her if I was saying those things, and at that point, we served a year and a half together, LOL. I thought I picked up a thing or two, apparently not. She is a good woman, especially with being there for me about my job that I truly hate. She's my sounding board as I complain about it often, and I know that it's a lot for her to deal with at times because I can be a pessimist. Also, she's always had a strong bond with my mom and continues to talk with her. Before the breakup, I also challenged her lack of commitment to us and the confusing mannerisms toward the relationship. I reiterated that I'm all in or nothing. This blew up into more arguments, so I decided to honor the breakup. It's been 4 months, but she still has our videos on her socials. Overall, I'm angered by her unwillingness to stay and work rather than run. I thought we prepped for the bad times and said we'd do therapy, but the talk of that has fallen dim. Where do things go from here? Should we just let it go? Thank you, Sheldon.
Thank you for writing in.
We appreciate you. And I did have to condense your scenario, so I couldn't read literally everything. But Dre and I do have the extra notes here, and so we'll weave those in as we work through your scenario.
Man, this reminds me of how I was in my relationship in college.
Okay.
Like just a lot of telling somebody what they doing and what they need to do and how they doing this wrong. And it's like not taking any accountability for, I guess, the actions and things that I did.
Yeah.
Like I realized early on after that relationship, like trying to be the one that's telling this person, this is how you need to do things, this is how you need to act, this is how you been, this is how, it's never going to work out in that thing, because all it's going to make somebody is be in a position of defense.
Yep.
They're going to be defensive every time you try to come at them that way.
Yep. They're going to put them on the defense. They're going to put them on the defense. So where do you want to start?
Okay, I have this question that just popped up as you read this.
Okay.
That I'm just curious about, because my cousin and I were having this discussion too. Do you think someone needs to live as an adult first before being in a relationship? So not necessarily having, he's talking about living together, but like living on their own, taking care of your own rent, like paying your own bills, like actually living as a full-time adult before like actually getting into a relationship with somebody.
Do I think they should?
Yes. Or you straight from like home, or the alternative is straight living at home, maybe not paying their rent, whatever like that, and going into a relationship with somebody and then moving in and getting married and all that stuff with somebody, and the first time they've ever lived on their own, it was with that person.
I do think it's ideal that you try life as an adult on your own first, like living in your own space, paying your own bills, being responsible for yourself first. However, I don't think it's necessarily anything wrong if you don't do that. If you go from being at home with your parents to your first time living outside of your parents' home is with your partner, as long as you recognize that you probably need, you probably will want to have maybe a couple or somebody that you can work with to kind of help, like older, someone that's already been doing that for years, that can maybe kind of guide you through certain nuances. Because sharing finances with a person, whether you're romantically involved with them or not, sharing them under one household can be challenging. You two might see the use of money differently. You might even have differences in like how you live, like in the space. You want to paint the living room blue, they want to paint it yellow. Well, what do? Do you paint it blue and yellow? Do you it's a lot to consider when you're living with somebody. But I don't necessarily think there's a lot of difference other than getting adjusted to sharing space. Because even when you live with a person, with your person, you have to know how to manage money. You have to learn how to manage money. It's no different when you're living on your own. You're just doing it by yourself. You're fully relying on you. Where if you do it with your person, you should have a pool that you're pulling from. You're divvying, likely, maybe, I know nobody, we don't split bills. But if you are one of those people that shares in the financial responsibility in your household, it's no different. You're still having to take your income, deduct out what you need for your expenses. It's just that you're now doing that with somebody.
Yeah.
But I do think at my age, again, I got to put that in there. At 39, I'm likely dating someone around my age or older. He will have had to have lived on his own before. That's for sure. That's for sure. But if you 23, 24, yeah, if your first time living on your own is with your person, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Gotcha.
What do you think?
I don't think it's bad. I think I would prefer that somebody understand what adulting truly feels like, especially if like it's different if you go from, let's say your parents' house to a roommate situation to where you're still sharing some responsibilities, but it's not all on you. And, that's one thing. But in the comfort still of where you grew up, mom maybe still cooking for you. Like it's just a certain level of like realness that you get when you actually step out there on your own and understand how the real world treats people and treats adults.
Yes.
And I feel like sometimes it can make conversations in a relationship a lot easier to have. But if you are in a position where you don't have that experience and you go straight from mom or dad's house to a relationship, then you have to be open to deferring sometimes to the person who has a little bit more experience in certain situations. To like kind of help guide you in the relationship on how certain things work and how you need to navigate certain things, because you may not have had to experience a lot of different things. Like even after, especially if your parents have a good job and stuff like that, up until 26 years old, you've been on your parents' health insurance. Like you haven't had to fill out your own benefits from that way. Like there's a lot of things you just haven't had to experience. Even like I said, health wise or something like that. When you're young, you're healthy, you're good. Like then it's like once you get older, it's like, oh, I got to go to this doctor. I don't even know how to do this. How do I find PPO network? Like I don't get none of this stuff. And even things going wrong with my car, or things going wrong in an apartment, and this flood or the pipe break, or like I don't like, how do I deal with a lot of these problems? And I feel like until you live out, I think for everybody who lived on their own or that first time living on your own, it was just like, oh, there's a lot of things that I have to, understand or realize, or maybe you don't even know how you like certain things. You never had your own kitchen that was yours.
Right.
It's your mom's kitchen and your dad's kitchen.
Right.
And that's how they set it up.
Yep.
That's how they wash dishes. That's how they do things. But you've never even developed that for yourself.
That's right. That's why I say I feel like no matter how you do it, if you leave your parents' home to any situation where either it's you by yourself, you with a friend, or you with a partner, it is it's a big learning experience. You're going to experience all of those things no matter who you live with, even if you live by yourself. Because even if you're in a relationship and it's your first place together, but it's also your first place is outside of your parents' house, yes, that's still y'all's kitchen. That's still you and him still gonna have to figure out PPO and if the tire, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't change whether you live in the apartment alone or whether you live with a person. It's just that now you have the added either benefit or not so benefit of having someone to do it with.
Yeah.
Where you might can split responsibilities. Like, I'm gonna get the groceries and you're going to do something else during that time. You're going to clean the kitchen while I go to the grocery store. So I think as long as you go into it understanding management of like relationships, you should be okay.
Yeah, I think, and they like in this scenario, they're still young, or especially the girl's still fairly young, so she's still experiencing life. But I guess for me, it may not even be like living outside of whatever. It's just I want somebody. If I'm already married, but I would want to date somebody who has some adult experience.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like has some experience being an adult and understanding what that looks like. Like I could see how challenging it could be being in a relationship with somebody who has been completely sheltered, hasn't experienced like the real turmoil, the real stressors of being an adult. So then when we get in this relationship, you like maybe are looking for me to take up that mantle to shield you from those things.
Yes.
Or if we're dealing with things that I see as normal, just adulthood, you're like freaking out or don't know how to handle yourself. So
yeah, that's what I say.
I
At
need
my
an
age,
adult. I need to be with somebody who like got some adulting.
well, I will say though, the downside, excuse me, not necessarily the downside, but the alternative to sometimes when you have been living on your own by yourself for many years, you're sometimes really hard to deal with in a shared environment because you've gotten so used to being on your own. You don't make consideration for the fact that this is not just your house. This is now our house or our space, and you don't know how to share it because either this was already your spot, or again, you've just gotten so conditioned to living on your own that you don't make room to share anything with your partner. So there's pros and cons to both sides of it for sure. But like I said, at almost 40, I could not date a man who's never lived outside of his parents' house.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things, right, where he said he's cool with the timeline, which I feel like a 5-year timeline for marriage for a 24-year-old and a 28-year-old, and it sounds like they've been together for like a year and a half. So they started dating when she was 23, he was 27, roughly. She's saying she wants to be married in 5 years. One, do you think that that's a reasonable timeline for their ages? And then two, do you think that it's something they should even be talking about? Like you said, when they both still live at home, like, is it like in 5 years, you really think you're going to be able to be married? Should you have lived on your own first? There's so many things to consider in that time frame with their living arrangements and their age.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I never being married and wanting to be married, and you could tell me if you had a different experience. I never put like a time limit on it. Like this is what I want to do. And I got engaged very young. Like when Bree and I got together and got, engaged and end up getting married.
And you were how old when you got engaged?
That was 2018. Lord, I don't know, like mid 20s, 24, 25, something like that.
Okay.
And we got married in 21. So yeah, it's like I was still young, still mid 20s, like early 20s. And it's just like I didn't think, this amount of time. It's like I'm just gonna feel it out because I feel like that's what a lot of relationships are, right? You're letting your feelings kind of lead the way, and you're trying to use logic and practical thinking in the midst of that. But what's really leading you is the feelings. How this person makes you feel, how you feel when you're in their presence, how you connect with them. Like those are the things. And I feel like in the time, like especially when it comes to marriage, like marriage. It depends on so many different things. Like maybe engagement, it's like, all right, it'll take this amount of time. But it's like, as I was in my dating phase with Bree, I just did what felt right. It's like, okay, now I feel like I've had everything in place to know this is somebody I want to marry.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to prepare for engagement. And then once we got engaged, then we come together and figure out what we want our wedding and marriage to look like, that ceremony, and when does that make the most sense to happen?
Yes.
And it's like, that was the process. It wasn't like 5 years or this minute time or that much time. And I think that, if you're doing that from a wedding standpoint, that's understandable. But if you notice somebody you already want to marry, you can propose to the person and be engaged to the person. And there are people who get engaged and they get married 2 years later. or 3 years later.
Yeah.
I know some people, they get engaged, they had a baby, they wait till the baby's here, a little bit older, then they say, okay, we're going to have our actual like ceremony and stuff like that. Or they get married at the courthouse and have the ceremony later. Even if you don't even got to tell people you got actually legally married, sometimes some people don't. And they just like, all right, when we have the ceremony, that's going to be our announcement to the world that we're married. But we went to the courthouse and signed all the documents to be legally married. So yeah, I don't think the timeline thing has never been something that I have thought of ever. Not saying I don't agree with it, but I just don't understand.
So you never thought like, I would like to be married by?
Well, more by like in my 20s.
Okay.
Like I want to be younger when I'm married. I want to be able to experience life with my person when I'm at an age to where I feel like I'm still youthful and can still do things, but never like by this age. We have more did that when it comes to kids. Like we want to have kids at this age, because of course there's a lot more things that come with that, and there's a lot more shift in the dynamics of your lifestyle when it comes to children. But marriage, no, never like at this point, you know, I want to do X, Y, Z. Because my thing is that if I know after this year of intentionality and we're dating and we're doing all these things that you're the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, possibly, I'm trying to get a head start on this now. Like, so any way that we can now come together and start saving for a house or doing all these different things, saving on trips, like I'm ready to start getting into this because I'm now intentional and I want to move forward with like, this is my decision. This is your decision. We're going to go in it. Yeah. So I'm not waiting, you know, X amount of time just till I'm a certain age or something like that. But that was just my experience.
Yeah. I think the first, very, very, very first step of this is knowing that you both are marriage minded. And I think you should talk about that like early on, like super, before you even get into a committed relationship. You should know if the person you're dating wants to get married and why they want to get married and how they see marriage. Because some people see marriage as a spiritual union that God created, and you, what the Bible says marriage is what marriage is. Other people see it as a legal relationship that is necessary for the purpose of tax benefits, business benefits, just the benefits from a financial business perspective. They do still like love the person and they might have romantic feelings for them, but they see the purpose of legal marriage as business structure. Like I know inherently you're going to be my next of kin because you're my spouse, like the more matter of fact reasons around marriage. And then there are people who want partnership, but they don't want a legal marriage. They want more of a spiritual marriage. They want more of they call it so many different things, like different phrases to describe these types of commitments that don't come with the legality of a marriage license. And so I think you should have those conversations within the first 30 days of meeting someone. You should know if they want to get married one day, and how they see marriage for themselves if you do. And then I don't think it's anything wrong with having a goal in mind around, should when we meet feel like things are going really well over an amount of time when we want to get married. And I only say that because if you're a regular average American, you probably are going to maybe have a wedding and you want to plan towards that. And usually getting married means you would share a household. You would live under the same roof. And so if today you're dating your boyfriend and girlfriend, or you want to get married, let's just say it's 5 years like her, but you live at home, I live at home. I don't necessarily have the job that I really like right now. I don't necessarily make enough money to take care of a family, like to split bills in a household. You need to now back into those goals. I've said that many times, that when you set a goal, the point of that is so you can back into it and know what you have to do to get to the goal. So if marriage is the goal, when is important so that you can back into that goal, because it's going to come with financial responsibilities. It's going to come with legal responsibilities. And if you don't already live together, which you probably don't, it's going to come with physical responsibilities. And you have to be honest about, based on where you are today, can we really get married 5 years from now? Can we do that? What if you're in a graduate program and it's so rigorous that you can't work? You don't have income for 2 or 3 more years on this program. Can we really get married 2 years after you finish that program? Don't know. Maybe, maybe not, but it's highly unlikely. So should we be goaling after marriage for 5 years? So I know that's a lot, but I think you have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Everything isn't magical. Some people can much more easily get into these dynamics. Like you were already living on your own when you met. Where you weren't coming from your parents' house. You already had your own place. She had already had her own place. So you've already lived some life as an adult. And so I do think it probably was a bit easier, but it's still adjustment. She relocated from another state. Then you had to relocate to living in the same household. Then you got saved for a ring. Maybe you was already doing that even without her being in the picture, but let's just say you weren't. Now you have to save for that. So all of these things take time. And I think it's important to have those conversations. And to me, reading this scenario, it does not seem like Sheldon really ever cared about marriage necessarily. He wants partnership, but it sounded like he just conceded to the idea of marriage and is really much more focused on the business parts of it, that like, we've got to have certain things in place before we do that. Yeah. And that's fair, but it just doesn't sound like your girlfriend was of the same mindset. And women do tend to see marriage much more whimsical than men do. Men definitely see it much more matter of fact than most men. Some men, let me put the phrase. Some men see it as much more matter of fact, and some women see it much more whimsical.
I mean, I feel like marriage, I agree with everything you said. Even as like I said, Brie and I had to do that too. It's like planning out what we want to accomplish before we get married. I just don't ever remember putting like a time limit on it.
Right, like you marking off the calendar, like, okay.
Like on this time. It wasn't even like if like we knew we were going to get married. It was just like, all right, these are the things that we need to knock out before we do that. But we like are already committed to each other that we wanted to spend, our lives with one another. Yes. But when it comes to marriage, I think, and this is controversial and people may not agree, but I believe that marriage is the ultimate commitment that you can make in a relationship. And I hear some people talking about, like kids is whatever, like you had kids and you tied to me for life, and that's a bigger commitment than marriage. And I don't believe that's the case. No one, there's a lot of people who had kids that the parent ain't in that kid life at all.
Correct.
As if they do not exist.
Yep.
So you don't have to be around for a kid. And then a lot of times, a lot of those situations when it comes to kids and their parents and having babies, it was unplanned. It wasn't even like voluntarily I did this. It was like, oh shoot,
we got pregnant.
Well, we got pregnant. So I guess we got to figure out how we going to manage this situation. I think making a decision and a choice to do something with somebody is way more of a commitment and way more serious than like, now we had this kid, it happened, and now we're tied to each other. It's like, because I know plenty of people that got kids ain't in relationships. Plenty of people that have kids with a dad or a mom ain't around. Like, so that's not tying anybody down to anything. It's that individual person has to choose to still be there. Yes. But if you're saying I want to marry you, that's you like choosing somebody. Like, it's all these other people. I'm actually going through a process to where it makes it a lot harder to get out of this, to escape. I'm basically closing the door behind me, locking and throwing away the key. And basically, if I want to get out, I got to bang on the door to ask somebody else to help me get out. Yes. I can't get out myself. You know what I mean? So that's if you are choosing to do that, that's a real sign of commitment that like, I'm in this, no back door, no way out. Outside of myself, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I don't disagree with you. I definitely think anything that you say you really want to do, you should truly do it, but also understand all that comes with it. And marriage, as much as a wedding is beautiful, the idea of love, lifelong partnership, it's all beautiful and all of these things. You have to understand that the means to the end. That's why I say it's not just, do you want to get married? I think a lot of people ask that question when they date. Do you want to get married? And then you hear, yes, one day I do want to get married. And then you stop right there. You don't say, why do you want to get married? What do you find to be beneficial about marriage? What type of marriage would you like to have? These are just questions, right? Like, but they should be telling you a lot about the person, because if they struggle to answer any of those questions other than the first one, now you really need to see like, well, do they truly want to get married, or how do they see this commitment? Because like you said, you feel like it's the biggest commitment that you're going to make in your life, where others are so cavalier about it. Like, well, I mean, I got to, because I mean, ain't no woman going to let me be with her and not give her a ring. You know, it's like, well, if that's your attitude about it, I don't know if you really should be married.
You brought up a really good point, and that's just a general life lesson that everybody should take just to apply to their life. Is that a lot of times we hear terms or think of things, and we assume that our definition of that thing is everybody else's definition of that thing,
Yes.
when that's not actually the reality. Somebody can
No.
interpret that thing completely different based off of what they've seen in their life. And that's everything in life, whether that's marriage, somebody, when you're saying what being married is, depending on how somebody grew up or what they've seen,
Yes.
marriage could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yes.
I mean,
it could
even
mean something negative.
negative,
Yes.
like it could mean a lot of different things. And even like certain, even outside of, let's say, like a relationship or thing or something like that, I even remember like sometimes you would talk to some of the guys like I grew up with, or some of the people from around the way, and you'll talk about, let's say, like white people or something like that, and like this white person or that white person, and their perception of white people is based off of what they see on TV or something, because they never actually interacted with
Yeah.
somebody. So it's like when I'm speaking about a certain type of people or a certain thing or on a certain topic, sometimes you can assume that they're thinking and looking at it the same exact way that you're looking at it. And then it's like, oh no, they're looking at this completely different.
Totally different.
They could be looking at this from a place of fear. They could be looking at this from a place of, I don't know, like there's just so many different viewpoints. So what Rhonda is saying is so good, because it's like when you're talking to somebody about something, it's important to ask them to define what that thing actually means to them and what it looks like to them, because you may be surprised that you were having this whole conversation around this subject and they're not even thinking about it the same way that you thinking about it,
Not
or
at
looking
all.
at it the same way that you looking
No,
at
there's
it.
some people that see marriage as possession, like full on possession. I marry you because that's what makes you belong to me. And I get the phrasing, of course, my wife, my husband, but also I could call you my partner and my boyfriend and my girlfriend. That had nothing to do with getting legally married.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with that. So you do need to explore it to make sure that you're on the same page
And
about it.
take that with every part of a relationship. What does dating mean to you? Like, what is that? Because some people have a different thought process of what dating actually is, and is that exclusive? Is that not exclusive?
Yes.
Like, what is a girlfriend? Like, what does that mean to you? What is being in a relationship? What is being exclusive? Like, these terms, like, you think that they're just so
Yes,
easily
God.
defined, and that everybody has the same definition of what it is, but you'll come to realize, like, oh no, what they thought was dating, I consider talking, or like what what they
Exactly.
consider dating is actually being in a relationship. So it's like we all have these different terms. Even like I remember in college, like hearing the term hooking up, like what does hooking up mean? And it's
Right.
like have this different definition. Some people thought it was sleeping together. Some people thought it was just like kissing. Some people like, it's like,
Yeah.
what are these terms? And we need to define these things so that we're all on the same page, because that will let us know, like, all right, we're moving in the right direction, or maybe, we have different viewpoints.
Very
of
different
things.
viewpoints on this. Yeah. So I think that was kind of the first interesting point in this scenario where I was like, I don't know that they are really on the same page about that, but they're moving through it. I feel like there is just this overwhelming theme that he was very focused on. Like I said, I don't want to say the business of it, but just more of the inner workings of having a marriage or getting marriage minded, where she may not have been like that, and he then became very critical of everything that she did. And let me be clear, when you're in a relationship with someone, they are actually the person that is supposed to be measuring what's happening with your relationship. You both are supposed to be doing that for each other, right? Every single facet of your relationship is not always going to be the good, sweet stuff. Sometimes it is going to be the tough, hard stuff that is, okay, we say we want this, but you spend too much money, or you say you want this. If we're going to spend 50 years together, we've really got to learn how to communicate well. We've got to start working on that now, because we have struggles with that. they are supposed to be the person that can say that to you because they are in the situation with you. It doesn't matter the gender. It doesn't matter who makes more money. It doesn't matter who's older and who's younger. Your partner should have the room and the comfort to say not only that you're doing great and you look great and I love how you treat me and I love how you take me out on dates or that you buy me flowers. If you can make room for them to say that, you have to make room for them to say, you need to pull up in this area sometimes, or I don't like it when you say things like this, or we haven't been on a date in a long time, or I feel like our communication is struggling. You've got to make room for both, for the good conversations and the not so good conversations, the tough conversations. I don't want to be in a relationship with anybody that is in fear of telling me that I might be making mistakes or I'm doing things wrong from their perspective, because some of this is just perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm wrong. Clearly, I probably am not going out of my way to do something to piss you off. But if that's how you're interpreting it, I want to know so that we can talk through it and I can adjust. I want my partner to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to hold them accountable, because you are the person that I said, this is it for me. Like, you are the one and the only, and I'm gonna do this life thing with you.
Yeah.
And so we gotta ride the wave together. And that's not, like I said, it's not always gonna be kumbaya. And it does sound like when he was trying to communicate some of these things, it was falling on deaf ears. It sounds like he had to keep belaboring it to her over and over and over again. And then that's when you hit the wall of defensiveness. Now it's like,
yeah. And I'll say to that point, like, I know this from being in a relationship. I know this from playing sports, is that when you open the door of criticism, you have to realize that it's a revolving door.
yes.
That as soon as you start to criticize someone, you know what they're going to start to do to you?
Criticizing
They're
you.
going to start looking at you to see if what you're actually asking of them, you're actually doing yourself. Like, I've seen a lot of situations to where somebody may not have even thought. We had a scenario to where, like, when you start opening up doors to something, then it makes somebody look at you in that way. We had this scenario where the guy wanted the threesome because his girl brought up that she had it before. It's like, once she introduced that, then it made, he looked back at that and like, yo, like, what's up with that? I wasn't even thinking about that before, but now that you brought it up, now I feel like I could bring it up to you.
Yes.
And I feel like it's the same thing with criticisms. If you're going to be critical of your person, they gonna look back at you with the same stuff. If you tell them they not clean and they don't pick up behind themselves, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna look at you to see if you clean and you pick up behind yourself. And don't you leave something on the floor, because they're gonna be like, So I guess
them rules only apply to you to me, not to you.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they gonna all it's a natural thing that we do as people. It's like, if you try to call me out on something, I'm gonna be like, okay, I hear you, but you gotta practice what you preach. If you telling me to do X, Y, and Z, you need to do it. Need to do it too. So make sure you understand that and be ready for that. And I encourage you to practice what you preach. Don't hold your person to a standard that you're not going to hold yourself to.
That's it.
Like asking them to do stuff and asking them to be a certain way and being super critical of them, and you're not even holding yourself to that standard. But the thing is that it works not only in criticism, but a lot of times it could work in a positive way. If you give your partner grace, they'll tend to give you more grace. If you are apologetic or give your partner empathy, they're more inclined to give you empathy. So a lot of these feelings, when it comes to things in your relationship, these doors that you open up are revolving, and what you put in a lot of times is what you'll get out of it. So making sure that you understand, like, if I'm putting this in, like, I need to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's, because I know that this could possibly be reciprocated.
Yeah. And I do feel like there's just this overwhelming theme, even with some of the things that were removed. Like, he did say, removed from the story for the purpose of me just trying to read the scenario. But he talked about when he wrote in that he thinks she is unhappy in her path since university, so since college. And she has a complex about not being like her mother, but she got the same job that her mom has, working in the same building that her mom works in. She lacks direction for herself. She wants to seem like she's in control, but isn't always in control. It is just like,
It's a
and
lot of her.
it's a lot of
She is
yeah.
like I don't know. I remember having that mindset before to where I was just so critical of the person I was with, and you think that you're helping them, but it's all about the delivery. You can't force feed it. And then also, like I said, certain things. I told a friend this the other day. I'm like, listen, the most improvement I've seen from Bree is when she went to individual therapy, because I could say something 10 times, but she won't hear it because it's coming from me, maybe how I'm delivering it.
Yeah.
But as soon as the therapist says it, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, this just opened my eyes. And I'm like, I've been saying this the whole time. But sometimes they need to hear it from somebody like outside of you, somebody who's a professional to help them really receive it. Like you just pounding it in their head, telling them how they're not enough or how they're not doing enough for you or how they need to get themselves together. It's like that doesn't make somebody want to be in a relationship with that person. Like when you're constantly criticizing me or telling me I need to do X, Y, and Z, or that you love me, but in order for me to, I guess, to be worthy of you, I have to get myself together essentially. And it's like, dang, I didn't even feel like I was that bad of a person.
Right.
But you're making it seem like I'm just like this horrible like person who's just not worthy. And it's like that doesn't feel good. And I don't want to be with somebody who don't make me feel good.
That's right. And I said this at we were at Wine and Slow Jams. We talked about real love or real lame. If like your person says to you, you need to get in better shape. And somebody in the audience was like, well, it just depends on if that person is in shape. The one that's saying it to me. Revolving door. And I said, he's like, so how do you approach that? If you are in shape and you're telling, if you're a guy and you're trying to tell your girlfriend that you want her to get into better shape, women are sensitive about their bodies, usually a lot more sensitive than men. And my advice to him was to tell her this in a we way, in a way that says, we're doing this together. I'm coming to you. And yes, I'm talking technically to you about something that I think you need to be better at. But you are a reflection of me. Therefore, this is a we thing. And so the reason that I might want you to work out is because I want you to be healthier. But you being healthier benefits me. So you being healthier, again, is a we thing. So the approach is more like, hey, babe, like, I want us to get in better shape, or I want us to get healthier. I don't think your person is oblivious to the fact that you probably already are very healthy. Perhaps you are eating super clean and perhaps you do work out every single day. But it's really about the way that it was said that makes it feel like he wants us to do this together, that we're working on this together. And so perhaps this approach, because if how you wrote it is how you said it, then it does very much feel like the finger is constantly, and listen, I don't know her. We don't know her side of the story. She could be problematic. She could be superficial and selfish and a runner and childlike.
But it takes a rare person to be able to hear that and just accept it.
To hear it all the time and just be like, okay, you're right. Sometimes it is being like, we're going to deal with one thing at a time and we're going to deal with it as a unit that, hey, listen, we need to get better at how we handle money. Although we live with our parents right now, we have to do better at managing the money that we have better. So I've come up with this plan that we both can do, that we're going to try to save $50 a week. And let's do it together. You may have already been saving $100 a week because you're just better with money. But telling your person this as a we thing, again, it feels like, oh, wow, we're doing this again together. So also, it feels like if somebody got this many issues, like they want to get married, but you kind of sort of don't. They are superficial and you don't seem to be. They are high chested, which I think is potentially British slang for like they're arrogant. They're like full of themselves. If when you go to talk about serious matters, they shut down the conversations and they run. Like if all of this is a thing, why are you together?
Yeah.
Why you keep trying to force it? It doesn't sound like this is the lady for
You.
You. It
And
just,
that's
and you
okay.
don't sound like the guy for her. And the fact that she said, I want to break up, and you refuted it. You were like, no, like, I get it, right? I get being like, I don't think we need to break up. Like, let's keep working on it. But then y'all do that, and then you're still in the same cycle. It's like, it's probably because you're trying to force something to work that's not meant to work.
Well, sometimes we have to, and we do this as humans at times, and I think it's based off of sometimes how you were raised and the experience that you have, or experiences that you have, is that we have to sometimes stop looking at people as projects. Like, I see all these problems. It's a project. I'm trying to fix it. And if you just listen to me, I can fix you. I can get you to where you need to go. And it's when she's telling you like, yo, I need time. I need a break. And you're like, no, I'm not giving up on this project. Like, I know what needs to happen. Like, if you just listen to me and do the things that I'm telling you to do, then you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, and your life would be so much better. And you would, it's like, we had to stop looking at people as these things that we're taking on and trying to problem solve and fix and all this stuff like that. Cause that's going to get you in trouble. And it's not helpful for you or that person.
It's not. You trying to shove a square in a circle hole, and it's not working. I mean, Lord, even when he talks about the religion, she's Seventh-day Adventist, which I grew up as an Adventist. That's really the only religion or denomination I've been a part of. And then he says he's not religious.
Yeah, that's just unequally yoked.
Like y'all are just literally seemingly not on the same page about much of anything. And as an Adventist, I will tell you, out of all the Christian faiths, Adventism can be one of the stricter ones.
Yeah.
It can be one of the ones that does have, it's just not as loose. It's not as flexible as the non-denominationals or other denominations. And again, that's from my personal experience with Adventism. But for her to be an Adventist, but you not be religious
at all,
it's like, I don't want to ever seem like I'm consistently promoting people to not be together. But what I do want to consistently promote is not wasting time once the writing is on the wall and you've tried already. Like, I'm not saying don't try, because it's a process of learning one another. You don't know who you're dealing with until you run into some adversities. But cool, you run into them, you talk about it, you figure out a plan so that you don't keep having that same experience, and you give it some time. If within a week it's still happening, within 3 weeks it's still happening, within 4 months it's still happening, and now new stuff is happening on top of that, how many signs of this might not be the right situation do you need before you'll be like, let me go, let me just let her be on her own, I'm gonna be on my own, and I'm gonna move on? How many times do you need to see that it's not working out to believe that it's not working out? I don't know, because this is just littered with, now she doesn't trust you because of how much you critique her. She doesn't believe you know her very well if you think these things of her. Yes, she has a great relationship with your mom, and she's a listening ear about your job that you don't really like that, and you're a pessimist. I can tell. I can tell just even in the way that you write about your girlfriend. And I mean, that's who you are. That's fine. But it just doesn't sound like the compatibility is there.
Yeah.
There's maybe some chemistry, I'm sure, but it just does not sound like you all are compatible.
I feel it seems like people in relationships have like FOMO. A lot of people have FOMO for experiences, but I feel like some people have FOMO when it comes to people too.
Yeah.
It reminds me of sports, of when like every year for every sport there's drafts and people choose prospects to be on their team, and sometimes teams stick with prospects a lot longer just because they fell in love with the potential of what they thought the person could be. And when it's not working out like they thought it would, they just want to keep believing, like, if we just give them more time, if they just develop a little bit more, if they just do the things, then they could possibly work out. But when the signs were early on telling you like, this is not even that they're a bad prospect, but this just doesn't fit your organization.
That's it.
And you have to understand, like, all right, there is something out there better for me. Like, that belief will change your life when it comes to being and searching for relationships. Is like, if you really truly believe in your heart and in your mind that there's something out there better for me, or that my person is out there for me, the right person is out there for me. If you truly believe that, then I feel like the way you navigate relationships and dating will be a lot easier. Because you'll know, like, I'm okay with letting this situation go because it doesn't make sense for me, but that's okay because my person's out there for me.
Sure.
It's just not you.
That's it.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like some people, when it comes to, relationships, they like, yo, this is it. Like,
you fight tooth and nail at
like,
every turn. Just you trying to force it. You force it. And I don't want anybody to think that we believe relationships are perfect. If you've been here for a while, you know that we know for a fact they are not perfect. But if most of your days are spent frustrated, arguing, disconnected, distant, you keep breaking up to get back together, to break up to get back together, those are the situations that we are talking about where you are just spending way too much time trying to force those types of dynamics, especially pre-marriage. Like, you have not made a commitment that says for better or worse, through sickness and in health, and richer or poor. You have not even said those things. No. So it's like day in and day out, you're in a trashy relationship and you're like, but I think I still want us to get married. So what do you think is going to happen when you get married? You think it's going to get better?
No.
I'm going to go if it's not going to get better, because now a whole new set of circumstances will come into play. Again, like for them, y'all don't even live in the same household yet. You haven't even started splitting bills yet.
Y'all don't even spend all your time with each other.
You don't.
Y'all haven't. Yeah, it's
you, like, you live in two separate households right now, and you're dealing with all of this. Come on, like I don't know if continuing on in this relationship is even reasonable at this time. It could be at a later date. I don't know. Yeah. But overall, I just don't. I'm not seeing how critical he is, how much of a runner and shutdown she is. I don't see the gel.
And I think even in these beginning stages, especially like before marriage, engagement, early marriage, like if I ask you, do the good times outweigh the bad? Like it should be an overwhelming, like, yes. Like, yes. And I understand in some marriages that like you hit some rough patches and it might be like, like it's a lot going on right now. I don't know. But like for the most part, it should be an overwhelming yes. Cause it's like, what's the point of me being in this relationship if the good times and bad times are even? Like,
or if the bad times are outweighing the good ones.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point? Like,
what's the point?
It's already relationship. No matter who I'm going to be in a relationship with, it's going to be challenging, going to be tough. If there's not any enjoyability in it while I'm going through the tough times, what's the point of being with this person?
What are we doing? It makes me think about Auntie Shell when she said, which, I always had one eye closed on that whole them 10 years that she didn't like Barack. But like she did say at the end, which I agreed with, which is to your point, that they've been together for 30 years. If 10% of that time was bad, a third of that time was rough, then, that's really not that bad when you compare it to 2/3 of the time being really great. And so y'all know I don't believe that she just full on did not like him day in and day out for 10 years straight. I just think it was a rougher time overall.
Well, I think I've been in those that situation before, not like 10 years, but with Bree. Because when she said that, I was thinking like, like what does that look like? And I'm like, okay, there are times I feel like maybe I didn't like Bree.
Yeah.
But I loved her.
Yeah.
So the way I showed up, you wouldn't think that we had issues. We would still laugh. We would still have good times. Yes. We would still do all those things. But the things that you may see, like the feet rub or the random gifts or something like that, it's like, at this time with things going on, you're not inspiring me to want to do more for you or go above and beyond. Because I love you, I'm doing the things that I feel like I do as a husband, or my duties, or what I'm supposed to do. And of course I love you. So we have our times, we have our moments to where we're having fun and do stuff. But I don't feel inspired to be like, smitten, like over and above. I think
what you're talking about is romance.
Romance, exactly.
Yes.
It's like the romance, when you're in those situations, you still love the person, but the romance leaves.
Yes, the romance is either quelched or is just gone. It's just not there right now.
And I think that that's more of what she was
referring to. I agree,
because
when
she says not liking. It's more of like the romance left.
The romance left, and she talks about it being pivotally when they had children.
Yeah,
this is now when the functions of being parents is taking over our lives. Okay, we don't just have our own selves to just go eat tacos with and be cute about. We got whole human beings that we got to take care of. On top of that, this was also the time that he went into campaigning to become the president. A very rigorous, overwhelming change from the lifestyle that you probably were normally leading, which is you just come in and out every day. You a senator, and yes, you got a busy life, but it's not the same as running for president, where you're going to a different city day after day after day, and I'm out there like, hello, when really I want to lay down or take a nap or do something with the kids or with my homegirls, and I can't do that anymore because of your choice.
And even with reading his book, Audacity of Hope, this was before he became president. I think it really probably hit home when he was running for state senate, like, and state legislator, because it's like, at least if you know your man running for president and it seems like he might win, you like, at least, I mean, it's the president of the United States. But it's like, dang, you is local state senator and you gone every single day and these kids just were born, and I'm like watching these kids on my own, and you were an intern for me basically when I was an attorney. Now I got to put my thing to the side. In order, I get it. I get not feeling like, hi, baby, how was your day? I get that little romantic, sweetie stuff is like, hey, the kids need baths and Sasha needs help with her homework. I'm going to go take a ride. I'll see you when I get back, okay? Yep, gotta go. Like, there's nothing romantic about that at all. It is very much like, no, we got stuff to do. And this whole little senator thing that you trying to do, this little president thing, because I do think, yes, it might seem exciting when somebody say I'm gonna run for president, or just like it seems exciting when you say I want to be a singer, not realizing that becoming a famous singer comes with paparazzi, an invasion of your privacy, an extreme amount of security, people clinging onto you from every which way, people asking you for things that they never asked you for before, you having family members that you never even knew you had, for sure,
people demanding your time, people writing crazy stuff on the internet, blogs posting things that ain't even true about you. All of that comes with being a singer.
For sure.
All of that also comes with running for president. So it's like, yes, this seems nice and cool, but I used to be able to just go to Target. Now I have to go to Target in an armored vehicle with 3 men.
If I can go at all.
If I can go at all. And I don't want to write the list down for the girl. I want to touch my own green peppers. I want to get my own tomatoes. I've been able to do that my whole life. It's like, okay, president, I guess. So I get it. But like you said, you have to have more good days than bad days overall, over the whole relationship. And in a year and a half, this sounds like a lot, Sheldon. This sounds like a lot for a year and a half. And I think the move to break up was really not a bad idea. I think the idea of buying a house before you get married, that's all dependent on the two individuals. Some people think that that's the appropriate thing to do. Some people think it's not, that you should rent once you get married and then you buy a house. That's semantics.
Yeah.
That's semantics. Do what you want with that piece of it. But you need to make sure that the person you're going to be doing it with, whatever the decision is the right person to be doing it with. So yeah, there was not a solid foundation of a relationship here. I don't think so. I could be missing something, but you picking up the same thing?
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I sometimes that's the thing about relationships that make them so interesting is that from a practical standpoint, theoretical standpoint, it's all so simple. But when emotions get involved, it just makes everything way more challenging. And that's a good thing about sometimes with us is that when you write into somebody or you speak to a therapist, they can see through the emotion or they don't get the emotion.
Right.
So when they're looking at it, they're like, yeah, that don't make sense.
Right.
Or something they adding up. Like, you know what I'm saying? And and that's why we can say what we're saying in this manner of like, it doesn't seem like it's a solid foundation that was built, and it may not be the best relationship moving forward, because we can see past the emotion and all this, and understand that, you know, you just, like I said, like Rhonda said, from a compatibility standpoint, it just doesn't seem like you guys are aligned. And I think it's important too, when somebody's telling you they need space and they need time, to give them that. Like, you don't know. I know sometimes we like to think we know better than other people and can help them solve their problems. But like, if somebody's telling you like, hey, I need a break, I need a little time, you need to give them that. Allow them that time. Allow them that space, because what the alternative isn't going to push them closer to you. It's probably going to push them further away from you. Imagine you tell somebody, yeah, I need a little space, and they get a little closer to you. You're going to be like, huh? You might push them back. Like, did you not hear what I said? Like, what are you doing? Like, I need some space. And it's okay to follow up and ask a question, especially if you live together. I think we talked about this 2 episodes ago, where the guy said he needed some space, but they married, like they live in the same household. But the follow-up question is, what does that look like? Do you just need a couple hours to be unbothered? Like, you don't want me to talk to you for a couple hours? Does that mean you need to leave for the night or for a few days? Does that mean you about to take a vacation for a couple? What does space look like? Define the space that you're asking for. And I'm not saying I won't give it to you, but I need that word we talked about. Define the words, because when you're not living in the same space, I think it's easier to just be like, I need some time to myself. Just like, give me a couple days, I need to think. But when you live in the same household, space like what? Like, you want to sleep in the living room and I sleep in the bedroom? Because cool. But once you start talking about extended stay space, I need to know what exactly that means. You going to Joe's house for a couple days? I'm not saying you can't do that, but I just want to understand why you might think you need to leave your household for more than a couple hours. Yeah. So and I've done that with Bree before. Like, when we were dating, we weren't married yet, and we lived together. I was like, I need some space. I'm about to stay at my parents for a few days, just to, like, we were going through something and it was serious, and we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. It was like a point at the relationship, like, either we gonna go this way or we gonna go this way. What we gonna do? And I was like, I just need a little time to, like, think about it. And I think you could benefit from the time too. Like, so, and I explained, I'm going to my parents' house for X amount of days.
There you go.
This is what this is. Boom, boom, boom. This is why I feel like I need it. This is what I plan on accomplishing and what I hope I get out of it by taking this space. And this is what, you know, it's going to be. And she didn't necessarily love the idea of it.
Of course not.
But she respected it, and she understood exactly what I was doing, why I was doing it, and what I got out of it.
Love it.
So
love it. And look at that. Married.
And look at us now.
Married. So Sheldon, we hope we were able to help you. We really do. I don't know where you go from here. I just think you both really need to spend some time only working on yourselves. For sure. I think that's where you go from here. Work on yourself individually. Pray that she's working on, well, you're not religious. I don't know if that means you don't believe in God, but if you do, pray for her, pray for yourself, that you all can get to a better place individually. And if you want to write, and you know where to find us, relationshiprestored.com, click that contact and write into the show. We love context and we love, details, but not every single one. All right. Love y'all. Write us a review, tell a friend, subscribe, and all that good stuff. You can find me on social media at Ronnie Cakes,
at SJ Smith,
and at Relationship Restored. See you next time.